At 12:01 in the morning, I watched my own reflection do something I hadn't done yet. I was standing in my dark bedroom, holding a folded bedsheet, about to throw it over the mirror, and in the glass, the reflection of me lowered the sheet and turned and sat down on the edge of the bed, calm, settled, like it had decided to stay. I hadn't moved. I was still standing there with the sheet in my hands, watching a version of myself that was exactly 1 hour ahead of me decide what I was going to do next. And then down by my reflection's bare feet, a second pair of feet stepped into the frame, wet-looking, dark, right beside mine. There was no one else in my room. There would be in about an hour. I need to back up. Because a mirror doesn't do that on its own. Somebody has to carry it into your house first. And in my case, I paid $60 for the privilege and thought I was robbing the man who sold it to me.
Her name is Cora, and before any of this, she was an estate appraiser, a job built entirely on knowing what old things are actually worth. She told me the most valuable thing she ever learned in that work is that some things are cheap for a reason. This is what happened to her. I've kept it close to the way she told it. Cora bought the mirror at a country house sale, the kind she worked a dozen of a month. An old woman named Edith had died there. 91, in her sleep, nothing sinister, and the family wanted the estate cleared and gone. She walked the house room by room, pricing things in her head, and she noticed something strange before she noticed anything valuable. Every mirror in that house was covered. Bed sheets over the tall ones, pillowcases pinned over the small ones, the bathroom mirror painted over with flat white house paint. Draping mirrors in a house of mourning is an old tradition. But this was older than the death. The sheets were dust-set and yellowed. Edith had lived with every mirror in her home hidden for years before she died. Except one. In the back bedroom stood a cheval mirror, a full-length antique on a pivot in a dark carved frame, completely uncovered. The only uncovered mirror in the house, and by a mile the finest piece in it. Cora knew what it was worth the instant she saw it. $2,000 to the right buyer. Easy. The nephew running the sale, harried and wanting to be done, told her she could have it for $60. She asked why so cheap, and he got a look she didn't like and said his aunt had left one instruction about that mirror, taped to the back, and that instruction was the reason nobody in the family would touch it. He turned it around. Taped to the backing board in a shaking elderly hand was an index card. It read, "Keep it covered after midnight. Do not look. I did not listen the first time, and now I cannot stop." Cora, a professional, a person who did not believe a dead woman's note could hurt her, paid the $60. She thought it was the best deal she'd made all year. She asked the nephew on her way out where Edith had gotten it. He said he didn't know. He said it had just always been there, as far back as anyone remembered. She didn't think anything of it at the time. She thinks about it constantly now. She set it up in her bedroom, and for 2 days it was just a gorgeous mirror. She admired the quality of the old glass, the warmth it gave her reflection. She forgot the card entirely. The third night, she woke around 1 in the morning, thirsty, and glanced at the mirror in the dark. And she stopped, because the reflection was wrong. Not frightening yet, just wrong. In the glass, her bedroom was lit, the lamp on her nightstand glowing warm. But she was standing in the dark. Her actual lamp was off. She could see it, off, right beside her. And in the mirror, it was on. Being a rational person, she reached over and turned her lamp on, and the room matched. She told herself she'd been half asleep and went to get her water. When she came back, the mirror showed her the room without her in it, and then showed her walk into frame from the bathroom door carrying a glass, a full second before she actually did it. The mirror was running an hour fast. She worked it out over the next several nights the way she'd authenticate anything. Carefully, repeatedly. Between roughly midnight and dawn, the glass didn't show the room as it was. It showed the room as it would be 1 hour later. Whatever was going to happen in that bedroom, the mirror showed it 60 minutes early. And God help her, she said, it was useful. She'd see herself get a text at 2 in the morning and know an hour ahead her sister was about to message. She saw herself knock a glass off the nightstand, and an hour later moved it, and it didn't fall. Small things, harmless things. She started staying up to watch. She told herself she was studying a genuinely inexplicable object, which was, after all, her whole profession. She did not cover it after midnight. She looked, she kept looking. It went bad slowly, which she says is the part people don't understand. It didn't lunge. It drifted. The first wrong thing was small. One night the glass showed her the room an hour ahead, and in it she was asleep, but lying on top of the covers, facing the door. An hour later she fell asleep the way she always did, under the covers, facing the window. The future the mirror had shown her simply didn't happen. It was the first time the glass had ever been wrong. The next night, the reflection showed her bedroom an hour ahead with no one in it, and the door, which she always kept shut, standing open. An hour later, her door was still shut. She checked it 3 times. The mirror was showing her a version of the room that was pulling away from the real one. A lamp on that stayed off. A door open that stayed closed. A her who did things the real her never did. And then the reflection started showing her a figure. Not dramatically, that's what she kept saying. It would have been easier if it were dramatic. Some nights, in the hour ahead room in the glass, there was simply someone standing at the edge of the frame, in the doorway, far back in the dark of the reflected hall. A person-shaped darkness, always at the boundary of what the mirror showed, never quite stepping in, and never there in the real room an hour later. The glass kept promising her a visitor who never arrived. She finally understood what she was looking at. The mirror had shown her the future of her room once, but every night she watched, the reflection drifted a little further loose, became a little more its own place. A room that looked like hers and was slowly ceasing to be hers. And in that other room, that hour ahead room just behind the glass, something else had started to live too. She thought about Edith's card then. I did not listen the first time, and now I cannot stop. It wasn't a warning against looking once. It was a confession that looking was a habit you couldn't break, and that the more you looked, the more real the thing on the other side became, feeding on your attention like a fire feeds on air. She decided to cover it. She waited until just before midnight, took a clean bedsheet, and went to throw it over the glass. And she made the mistake of looking one last time to see what the hour ahead room would show her covering it. But the reflection didn't show her covering it. It showed her standing exactly where she stood, sheet in her hands. And then it showed her lower the sheet, turn, and sit down on the bed. It showed her decide not to cover it at all. She was still standing there holding the sheet. She had not moved, and the reflection had stopped waiting for her to move. It had stopped showing her the future. It was showing her what it wanted her to do, and it was an hour ahead, which meant it wasn't predicting her anymore. It was leading, and in an hour she'd catch up. She threw the sheet. It caught on the top of the frame and slid half off, so the glass still showed the lower half of the room, and in it she saw her own bare feet, and beside them that second pair of feet, wet and dark, finally stepped all the way in. The visitor wasn't at the edge anymore. In the hour-ahead room, it was standing right next to her, which meant in 1 hour, in the real room, it would be standing right next to her. She did not stay to catch up to it. Cora grabbed her keys and her phone and left the house at midnight in her socks, drove to her sister's, and didn't go back for 11 days. When she finally did go back, with her brother-in-law, every light in the car left running in the driveway, the mirror was exactly where she'd left it, the sheet half slid off, the glass dark and ordinary. Just a mirror. In daylight, always, just a mirror. She wrapped it without looking into it, and here is where she made her one professional mistake, the one she'll never forgive herself for. She could not bring herself to simply destroy a $2,000 antique. It was reflex, 30 years of her trade. You don't smash something valuable, you sell it. She told herself she'd sell it to a dealer, warn them, let a professional handle it. So she photographed it and put out a few quiet feelers to the trade. She got one answer. Same day, a man who said he ran an antique shop and specialized in, his word, difficult pieces. She hadn't heard of the shop. When she looked up the address, it was a storefront 2 towns over that she was fairly sure had been a vacant unit the month before. He came himself in an unmarked van, an older man, courteous, unhurried, with a soft, steady smile that never quite reached anything. He didn't haggle. He didn't even really examine the mirror. He looked at it the way you look at a dog you've owned for years, and he said, "There you are." Cora started to warn him, started to explain about the nights, the hour, the figure. He raised a hand gently and told her she didn't need to. He knew this piece. He'd known it a long time. He said, and she gave me his words exactly. "It always comes back to me in the end. They always do. I just help them find the next person who thinks they've found a bargain." She asked him then if he'd been the one who sold it to Edith. He smiled a little wider, and he didn't answer, which was its own answer. He wrapped the mirror in a moving blanket, loaded it into the van alone, though it should have taken 2 men, and paid her in cash, $60, exactly the same 60 she'd paid, counted out like a small private joke. Then he got in and drove away, and she stood in her driveway and watched the van until it was gone, and she said the last thing she saw was his face in the van's side mirror, still smiling, watching her back. She's tried to find the shop since. The address is a vacant unit again. It always is, she's learned. The shop is only ever somewhere for as long as it needs to be, and then it's somewhere else. A new town, a new street, a full window of beautiful old things at prices too good to walk away from. Here's the detail Cora ended on. The reason she doesn't own a mirror anymore. In the weeks after, she kept catching herself doing small things she didn't remember deciding to do, reaching for a light switch that was already on, finding a door open she was sure she'd shut. The exact small things the reflection used to show her, the lamp, the door, the differences between her and the version of her that lived an hour ahead in the glass. And she can't stop wondering about those 11 days the mirror sat alone and uncovered in an empty house, an hour running fast the whole time. Whether the thing standing beside her reflection finished catching up, whether the woman who walked back into that house on the 11th day was the one who ran out, or the one who'd been waiting an hour ahead of her the whole time, patient behind the glass, wearing her face, finally let out to wrap herself up and hand herself to a smiling man in a van. She doesn't know. That's the thing about a mirror, she told me. It only ever shows you yourself. And once you've been shown a self that isn't quite you, in a room that isn't quite yours, doing things you haven't done yet, you never get to be completely sure again which one of you it was that got to leave. Somewhere out there, right now, there's a shop that wasn't on that street yesterday. And in the window, near the back, there's a beautiful old mirror in a dark carved frame. $60. Such a bargain. Keep it covered after midnight.